I never believed in the power of a song to hold sway over one's soul until I stumbled upon the small, forgotten village of Tresmore. The path leading to it was winding and overgrown, giving away the secret that not many ventured this way. But it was a whisper from an old man at a nearby town that lured me here, a whisper of a lullaby, a melody so haunting that it could entrance those who listened and lead them to eternal nightmares. The village itself was nestled between dense woods and a slow-moving river, the silence pressing in from all sides as if holding its breath. Time seemed to have lost its way here, forgotten amongst the narrow cobbled streets and ancient stone houses, worn down by centuries of weather and neglect. My journey began at the humble inn where I took lodging. The innkeeper was an old woman, her eyes distant and her voice low, almost drowned by the eerie quietness that pervaded the village. As night settled, I asked her about the tale that had brought me here, the mysterious lullaby of despair. She glanced around, as if the very walls might be listening, then leaned closer, her voice dropping to a hushed whisper. "It's not a tale to be spoken of lightly," she warned. "That lullaby was sung by a mother, driven by love and madness, a love so twisted that it turned into a curse." I pressed her for more, but she shook her head, a shiver running down her spine. "Ask old Ethan," she said. "He's the last living soul who heard it." I found Ethan the next morning, an ancient man with a crooked back and gnarled hands, his eyes clouded but filled with wisdom and sorrow. He led me to a small wooden hut tucked away in the shadow of a gnarled oak. "It's been years," he began, his voice trembling. "Years since I heard that song, but it stays with you, lad. It haunts your very soul." He told me of the mother, Ilara, a beautiful woman with a voice as sweet as the morning dew and as cold as a winter's night. She had 2 children, twins, a boy and a girl, who were the light of her life. But something had broken inside her, a fracture in her mind that grew with each passing day. "She'd sing them to sleep," Ethan said, his voice breaking. "Her lullabies were a blend of love and madness. They were tender yet terrifying, filled with promises and threats, joy and despair." The villagers grew wary. Whispers turned into fearful glances, but no one dared interfere. They believed that the lullabies held power, that they were tied to something ancient and dark. As months turned into years, the children grew pale and withdrawn, their eyes haunted by nightmares they could not escape. They were trapped in a waking dream, their minds ensnared by their mother's song. The villagers could hear their cries at night, echoes of terror that seeped through the walls of their home. I asked Ethan what happened to them, but his eyes filled with tears, and he turned away. "It's a curse," he whispered, "a curse that lingers." I spent days wandering the village, each step weighed down by the heavy silence and the shadow of the lullaby. The house where Ilara lived still stood, a grim sentinel at the edge of the village, its windows like hollow eyes staring into the abyss. I ventured inside, drawn by a morbid curiosity and an inexplicable pull. The rooms were filled with the remnants of a life twisted by madness. Scribbled notes, broken toys, and, in the children's room, a cradle still rocking, as if moved by an invisible hand. But it was the melody I found most chilling, a haunting refrain etched into a weathered sheet of music, notes that seemed to dance with a sinister grace. The song was there, lurking in the shadows, a lullaby of despair that called to me. That night, I dreamt of Ilara, her eyes wild, her voice weaving a tapestry of terror and love. The lullaby played in my mind, a never-ending loop that twisted and turned, leading me into a nightmare from which I could not wake. I left Tresmore with a heavy heart and a mind clouded by the melody. The village remains a forgotten place, a hidden enclave where time stands still and nightmares linger. But the lullaby of despair lives on, a haunting refrain that echoes in the hearts of those who dare to listen, a song that transcends time and reason. It's a melody that I still hear in the stillness of the night, a chilling reminder of a love turned twisted, a mother's embrace turned into a curse, a lullaby that lulls you not into peaceful slumber, but into a state of unending nightmares. The lullaby of despair is real, and it's waiting for those who dare to hear it. The cold had seeped into my bones, but the haunted house I'd been led to seemed strangely inviting. The architecture was of a time long past, covered in ivy, yet a warm light flickered in the windows. The village folk spoke of a maternal ghost, offering comfort to the sorrowful. Driven by curiosity and a personal grief I dared not admit, I approached the house. I entered, my breath catching in my throat. The walls were lined with portraits of families, smiles frozen in time, and every piece of furniture was delicately preserved. I felt an inexplicable warmth, an embrace that beckoned me forward. Days turned into weeks as I continued my exploration, documenting every encounter. People came and went, each with a heavy heart, leaving with a look of peace and gratitude. A spectral figure would sometimes appear, her loving smile offering solace. I even felt her touch myself, a gentle caress that seemed to understand the hidden sorrows in my soul. But beneath the comforting facade, something began to gnaw at me. The house had rooms that were always locked, shadows that didn't make sense, and a silence that sometimes hung too heavily. One day, I stumbled upon a hidden diary filled with the words of a grief-stricken mother who had lost her children. The writing spoke of her pain, her longing, and a desperate need to comfort others, to feel their grief, to make it her own. The entries became more frantic, more incoherent, and then they just stopped. I began to dig deeper, driven by an obsession I couldn't explain. I found newspaper clippings, reports of tragic deaths, each person eerily connected to this house. Their faces began to haunt my dreams, their eyes filled with a pleading despair. Finally, one night, everything changed. I was awakened by a chilling scream, a sound that I will never forget. Following it, I found myself in one of the locked rooms. The door had opened, revealing a world I never expected. The room was filled with mirrors, each reflecting a different scene of death and sorrow. People I had seen comforted in the house were reliving their tragedies, their faces twisted in eternal agony. The ghostly mother was there, watching them, her face a mask of twisted grief and satisfaction. I understood then. The spirits she comforted were forced to relieve her pain by reliving their tragic deaths over and over again. Her love was a lie, a twisted desire to feel their suffering, to make it her own. I ran, leaving everything behind, my mind reeling, my heart pounding. I knew then that I had become part of her twisted game. She had seen my grief, touched my soul, and I was marked. The haunted house still stands, the warm light still flickers, and the ghostly mother continues her sorrowful embrace. But I know the truth, a truth that chills me to my core. The village folk still speak of the house as a place of comfort, and I dare not tell them otherwise. For I know that the eyes in the portraits follow me, and in my dreams, the locked room beckons. And sometimes, when the night is dark and the wind howls through the trees, I feel her touch again, gentle, loving, and filled with a sinister promise. Her embrace lingers, a haunting reminder that I too am bound to her, destined to relive my pain over and over again in that room of mirrors. My heart is heavy, and my hands tremble as I write these words, for I know that her love is a curse, a never-ending cycle of grief. And I wonder, as I look into the mirror, if my reflection is my own, or if I'm just another soul trapped in her eternal, ghostly embrace. In the shadows of grief and longing, the twisted embrace of a ghostly mother still lingers in my mind, an unending nightmare, an eternal cycle of pain. And now, dear listener, I must ask you, have you felt the chill of the spectral unknown? Have you encountered the ghostly and unexplainable, only to be left with questions that torment your soul? If you have a tale of horror or a ghostly experience you wish to share, please leave your story in the comments below. Your words may be a balm to others who have treaded the same dark paths, or a warning to those who would venture where angels fear to tread. And if you dare to explore further into the realms of the mysterious and the macabre, please like and subscribe, and click the video on your screen for another horror adventure. Venture with me into the shadows where reality twists and horrors lurk around every corner. But be warned, once you've looked into the abyss, it may look back into you.